Reminiscence. Nick Bannister, a private investigator of the mind, navigates the alluring world of the past when his life is changed by a new client, May. A simple case becomes an obsession after she disappears and he fights to learn the truth about her. This film stars Hugh Jackman, Rebecca Ferguson and Thandie Newton, as well as a plethora of other people. Loads of people in this movie. And the film was directed by Lisa Joy, who's previously directed WESTWORLD. I mean, a producer on WESTWORLD. There's some various other people who worked on WESTWORLD who worked on this movie too. And when I watched this trailer a few weeks ago, I was actually pretty excited for this movie. It looks really unique. It looks like a really cool sci-fi movie, something unique, something kind of unique. There's very much an Assassin's Creed style element where they've almost got an animus to see in the past. So it looks like a decent sci-fi movie, something a little bit unique, and it's got a pretty good cast. And I didn't really know what to expect going into this movie. The movie opens up on a phenomenal one-shot of a drone flying in over a sunken Miami, instantly giving this movie something of a sci-fi setting, a futuristic setting. Miami is underwater, which is what's predicted to happen in the future at some point with global warming as it's going. Various cities across the world will be underwater in this way and people are going to have to learn to adapt, and that's what happens here. But giving a city like Miami a different look like that, where it's partially underwater, definitely adds to the sci-fi element. It was a really cool visual to start with, and the opening shot is fantastic in this movie. And then they go on to explain the reminiscence and the reminiscence machine, and it's a really cool visual. And you go, okay, we're in for a good one here. There's a lot to play with. Now I'm going to do my best to a certain point to try not to give away any spoilers, because I want you to go check out this movie for yourself. You might enjoy it more than I did. That's a kind of a spoiler for later on in the video. But they established the reminiscence thing, and then they start off with their story. A woman comes in and she's lost her keys. And Hugh Jackman all the way through this section is given a voiceover. It's one of those almost like an LA Noire video game where he's like, the first time she walked in, I knew there was a connection type of thing. That wasn't the exact line. It was something to that effect, you know, something cheesy, like the moment she walked in, I knew she was the one. And we set off on our story. Hugh Jackman and this woman develop a relationship. She goes missing and Hugh Jackman has to find her. Despite everyone telling him she's dead, he goes through her memories and his memories with her and other people's memories of her to track her down and find out what happened to her. It's an interesting concept. The way they explain the reminiscence stuff at the start, fantastic. And the setting at the beginning of the movie, fantastic. The cast, fantastic. But once they get through the initial setup, the movie becomes a very generic whodunit type of movie. A very generic mystery movie of what happened to this girl. And all the way through the movie, the dialogue is just, it's average at best, but not even average in places. The dialogue is very on the nose in places. It's not very well done throughout, even to the point where you wonder if the actors are putting in bad performances or they're just not given a lot to work with. The movie's about 2 hours long, which is fine for the most part. Generally, good sci-fi movies are around 2 hours because they can keep your attention all the way through. But this movie starts off on an electric pace, and it starts off really interesting, really grabs your attention, and then it has a massive drop off in the middle. My attention massively waned right in the middle of this movie, all the way up to the last probably 20 minutes. And even then, I was iffy. The movie didn't do a great job of keeping my attention all the way through. It got me hooked at the start and I fell off that hook very, very quickly. And I'm sure a lot of people were the same watching this movie. But this is the point now where I have to talk a little bit about spoilers, because we need to talk about the ending of what happened at the end. Of course, that's what the ending is. So if you haven't seen the movie, click off the video now, go check out the movie, then come back and give me your opinion on the ending. Are they gone? Cool, we can get into the ending. Hugh Jackman's been hunting down all these people. And first of all, we gotta talk about the scene where, is it Booth? Is the corrupt police guy with the scar on his face? So he's got Booth and he sees Booth's memories. And we see what happened to the woman. She was forced to take all these pills. She ultimately takes all these pills and she jumps off a ledge. Now, I've said many times on this channel, it's an unwritten rule of movies. If you do not see the character actually die, dead, on the ground, splattered, bullet through the head, no return, then more than likely 9 times out of 10, that character is still alive. We see this character jump off the ledge, we don't see them land, we don't see where they go. So for all intents and purposes, she could still be alive, especially in a world filled with water. She could just landed in some water and been saved later on. But that doesn't appear to be the case within this movie. It could have been, and they could have gone with their happy ending at the end. So Hugh Jackman takes out Booth, and possibly the best way they could have. It was good use of the reminiscence technology there to, you know, establish this guy's a real bad guy, let's torture him until he's dead. It was kind of cool, but at the same time, at that stage, my interest was very much waned in this movie. But then we get down to who was responsible for Booth taking the girl, I guess, and all this other stuff. And they just randomly go back to this kid we've seen earlier in the movie and be like, it was you didn't want to split your inheritance. And it was just so random and generic and unnecessary within the movie. Just let Booth be the bad guy. There was no reason to have this other side story with the kid and the mother, and it was just so stupid. And we've seen the kid once earlier in the movie, and I'm all for not making the main bad guy or the main person responsible so obvious. But you can also go the other way, which is the stupid way, and just pick a random character and go, it was that guy. That guy you saw once at the start of the movie, it was him. And even the guy's reasoning for wanting to have a woman killed and her kid taken, his reasoning was he didn't want to split his money. He was going to get a boatload of money anyway. It's not like he was going to be left with nothing. So his reasoning for wanting to kill people was stupid. And then you've got the whole thing of Hugh Jackman broke into like the rich people's part of town, broke into their house, and a cop brings him outside and is about to shoot him, but shoots the ground, says if you come back I won't miss next time. Hugh Jackman comes back the next time, just walks into the house, no security, no bother, just walks up to where he needs to go, and it's no problem at all. Just no reason for that security scene earlier. This movie also has one of the worst fight scenes I have ever seen in a movie between Booth and Hugh Jackman's character. The fight scene goes on for a long time. It's overly choreographed. It's very obvious it's overly choreographed. And then we get to the point where Booth's arm gets stuck in a piano, almost comedic style, like in a Saturday morning cartoon. His arm's pinched in the piano and he starts to sink as Hugh Jackman just looks at him and goes, okay. And then Hugh Jackman goes in the water, goes down to save Booth. He gets his arm out of the piano, and instead of being like, hey, you helped me, I'm gonna help you now, Booth just hits Hugh Jackman and escapes. He goes up to the surface. Hugh Jackman's floating in the water for a good 5 minutes, and he sees a vision of the woman he's after, and his eyes are moving, even though he's not drowning at all in this water, by the way. Then Hugh Jackman finds the energy to like swim to the surface, and Booth's just sitting there. If his intention wasn't to help Hugh Jackman, who just helped them, why wouldn't he have just left? Instead, he's just sitting there, and Hugh Jackman comes up out of the water silently somehow. He's managed to come up with this ability to silence water. Like, he's coming out of the water. Water makes noise when you get out of water. But he comes out of the water completely silently, sneaks up on Booth, and injects him with something. How did Booth not hear him get out of the water? How did Booth not hear his footsteps behind him in this silent, creaky old house? And also, why is Booth there in the first place? He could have just left. But that's how he gets Booth at the end, and he gets his memories and all this. But it was just such a bad scene. And that entire fight scene, if they took that entire fight scene out of the movie would be 10 times better. It just would. I don't think they used the reminiscence machine enough within the movie. They did use it a lot within the movie, but I just felt it could have been used slightly better. At the start of the movie, I actually thought the entire movie was going to take place within the room of the reminiscence machine. And that could have been really cool. Everything we see outside the reminiscence machine room is through people's memories. And that's how we uncover the case along with Hugh Jackman, is through the reminiscence machine. And sure, you can have flashbacks into the memories, but for the most part, the movie could majoritively take place in the reminiscence room machine room. So in the end, Reminiscence was a movie I was very excited for. It started electrically. It was fantastic at the beginning, trailed off massively, had one of the worst fight scenes I've ever seen, one of the worst endings they could have ever had, and ultimately it just ended up as a bit of a mess. So it comes down to the rating, as always, out of 10 here on the Movie Film Show. I've said it's had some good, it's had some bad. So for a rating for Reminiscence, I'm gonna go for a 4 out of 10. I think that's a fair rating for this movie, and I don't seem to be alone in that thinking, because on Rotten Tomatoes, Reminiscence has a 37% critic score and a 41% audience score. As I say, this movie had so much potential and was ultimately let down by some bad filmmaking in the end. Bad dialogue, a generic story, a terrible fight scene, a terrible ending. It all makes Reminiscence not even worth watching. Unfortunately, it's such a shame to say. But with all that being said, this is where I throw it over to you guys. I want to know your opinions on Reminiscence in the comment section below. Have you seen it? If you have, did you love it? Did you hate it? If you haven't seen it, are you still planning on seeing it? Maybe you'll enjoy it more than I did. And if you did, let me know in the comment section below. And with all that being said and done, thank you so much for watching.